Hello everyone, Coma Jordan here. With another year comes a new season of Death Battle, and with 2025 being one of the best seasons in the show's history, I am actually having a retrospective plan for later down the line. But for this video, I want to focus on the next possible matchups for 2026. While I'm obviously not an insider from the Death Battle team, I have been able to think up a season based on what's confirmed, clues based on past episodes, what's most relevant in 2026, and what the team personally likes. I have 12 episodes as the standard for this year, like with 2025, so that gives us 3 matchups we know will happen and 9 matchups that weren't outright confirmed. One known disqualifier is with Champions Island. If you didn't know, Champions Island was a Death Battle Champions exclusive event inspired by Survivor and Total Drama, where 32 different characters participated to get a matchup in 2026. And while the winner for sure has a matchup for 2026, the rest have been confirmed by the team to have no plans for, so I can't include any matchups relating to them. So no Henry versus the Second Coming, Ken Kaneki versus Eren Yeager, Hatsune Miku versus Barbie. Any matchups involving those characters are off the table. I also want to mention that Light vs. Columbo is a matchup I won't be touching on since it's a bonus episode, and those can happen pretty much when the crew feels like it, so I can't possibly predict that. And finally, before I give the predictions of what I think will happen this season, I had to make a lot of cuts, as there are still some matches I know will have a chance over some of the other ones I chose. But given the other clues, I think the matches I chose are more likely to happen. First up is Sailor Moon vs. Madoka Kaname, a really popular matchup involving 2 of the biggest faces of magical girl anime. This is likely to happen with the Waltz Perkisatch movie though. Secondly is Mysterio vs. Scarecrow. Death Battle loves Marvel vs. DC. However, with the last season using as few characters from those franchises as possible, I wouldn't be surprised if we had very little Marvel vs. DC this year too. But if you really wanted to, consider it the representative for those series as the no-duh for the season. Lucina vs. Grovyle. With the 30th anniversary of Pokemon and with the announcement of Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave, this is probably likely to happen too, but I consider the other matchups more popular and likely to happen over this one. And finally, Naruto vs. Luffy. The team really likes this matchup, and it is a grand legacy matchup that you could even consider being a finale, so consider it the closest honorable mention that probably would have made if it had to be cut. But with that out of the way, let's begin. For episode 1, I have Avatar Aang from Avatar The Last Airbender versus Aether from Genshin Impact, one of the last confirmed matchups from the Death Battle Kickstarter, and the one that most people have been dreading since its announcement. I don't really have a problem with it personally, since Aang has been a character who deserves a run back since his last appearance, and Genshin Impact is one of the most popular gacha games, but given Genshin's reputation, I can see this matchup being the episode to start the season for the team, just so they could get over the doom posting from the community. The connections are 2 young kids who can control the elements, and have connections to spiritual power, who also travel across the land surrounding these elements. I loved watching Avatar during my teen years, but I haven't played that much Genshin before. Aether definitely wins from what I hear. I do at least hope Aang shows a better character than last time, where he flat out kills another kid for attacking him for calling him short. I can see this probably being 3D given Genshin's art style, though Moro has animated Genshin characters in the past, so I could see that also being a possibility. But overall, an episode I'm kind of neutral on. For episode 2, I have the last confirmed Kickstarter matchup of Gru from Despicable Me versus Megamind, a matchup everyone seems to like. Both are from animated movies about the protagonist being a villain before building relationships with other characters before deciding they want to become a hero and then stopping a bigger villain. I grew up watching Despicable Me movies, and they all range from pretty good to just okay with the 4th movie. Megamind I watched when I was fairly small, but on a rewatch on my teen years, I ended up really liking it, though I haven't seen Megamind vs. the Doom Syndicate and I clearly don't want to. And from what I hear, no one can really decide who wins, so it will be interesting to see what the team comes up with for the outcome. This is probably going to be 3D given their origins, especially when taking the minion armies into consideration, but I'm hoping to have a good time with this one. Episode 3 is Ori from Ori and the Blind Forest versus the Knight from Hollow Knight. With Hollow Knight exploding last year with the release of Silksong, I see this as the most likely matchup to happen this season. The connections are indie Metroidvania games with beautiful hand-drawn art styles, with the main protagonist contrasting darkness and light. I have played through the first Hollow Knight, which I loved, but haven't played Silksong yet, and I do own both Ori games, but I haven't played them yet. Also, from what I hear, this one's pretty even too, so the conclusion could probably be interesting. This one you have to do hand-drawn, and considering Moro animates the Knight in Indie Cross, you have the right guy to animate this fight with. Episode 4 is Ichiko Kurosaki from Bleach versus Yusuke Urameshi from Yu Yu Hakusho. Given in the trailer they have for 2026 6, they show off a clip of Ichigo's weapon from Thousand Year Blood War. I can see this being the next Bleach matchup they do. The connections are shonen teenagers who find themselves fighting off evil spirits, and they secretly have connections to the spirit world. I haven't seen Bleach beyond the first 20 episodes, but I have seen Yu Yu and really liked it. I can see this one being a fast-paced 2D episode, though I wouldn't say 3D is completely out of the question. I think the episode has potential to be pretty good, and I am open to it. Episode 5, I have Monokuma from Danganronpa versus Koro-sensei from Assassination Classroom, which is another one of the semi-finalists from the Tournament of Champions. And with Danganronpa and Assassination Classroom both getting new releases in 2026, it would be the prime time to do this matchup. Both are creepy-looking creatures who play the role of a teacher for a classroom of students. Both classes are based around killing, and contrastingly, one wants to bring out the hope in them, and one wants to bring out the despair in them. Danganronpa was one of my biggest hyperfixations as a teenager, and I have seen Assassination Classroom 2 years ago, and I really loved it. Monokuma probably wins given the Monokuma army and greater speed. This would likely be 2D given the lack of polished models, but this is probably one of my most favorite matchups for the sake of the prediction, and I would be really excited if this happened next year. Episode 6, I have Adam E from Invincible versus Gwen Tennyson from Ben 10. With Invincible still being relevant with the releases of seasons 3 and 4, along with Ben 10 having a new comic series in the works, I think this matchup is fairly reasonable. Both are red-haired heroines with great intelligence who can manipulate pink energy, and also have great connections to the main character. I really like Adam, one of my favorite characters from Invincible, and Gwen is a really good character during the UAF era of Ben 10, so I really do like this matchup. This can probably be 2D too, given that Gwen doesn't have a modern model, but given they have done lantern constructs well in the past, doing it in hand-drawn is a good idea. Episode 7, I have Cell from Dragon Ball versus Metal Sonic from Sonic the Hedgehog. Given the team really likes this matchup, along with Dragon Ball and Sonic never falling out of relevancy, I can see this matchup happening next season. The connections are that they were created by an evil scientist to kill the main heroes, and can copy biological data to evolve and gain their abilities. Honestly, a banger matchup in my eyes. Cell and Metal Sonic are really cool characters, and have great animation potential showing them evolving throughout the fight. Metal likely wins the Super Neo Metal Sonic and his greater speed. This can probably be 3D too, which would be really cool. Episode 8 is Luz no Sada from the Owl House versus Anne Boonchoi from Amphibia. This is a long overdue matchup given these shows have ended not too long ago, and the team wants to use it before it falls out of relevancy. The connections are two Disney sister series protagonists who are isekai'd into another world, and both build new relationships with the residents there, and gain new powers. I grew up on Owl House and Amphibia, so I do hold a lot of connections to this matchup, so I would be very excited. I personally believe Luz should take this one with her Titan form and greater powers, though I wouldn't be surprised if Anne won either. This one would definitely be 2D given these characters' history. Episode 9 is the Champions Island winner episode, Kamen Rider Yates versus Nero Claudius. I'm not too keen on whether the episode will perform well given the obscurity of these characters, but hey, the champions chose it, so who knows. The connections are white and red protagonists who find themselves in death games while fighting against their pasts. I have no connections to either. I am starting to watch Kamen Rider, and I have seen a few Fate animes, so maybe I'll try playing Fate Extra Record. And from what I heard, this is a fairly debatable matchup, so I wonder what outcome the team chooses. I am excited for this matchup though. It is probably going to be in 3D. Episode 10 is the Halloween episode, to which I have another semi-finalist from the Tournament of Champions, Sans from Undertale versus the Judge from Off, which I think is a pretty cool matchup. The connections are characters from indie games about the morality of RPG characters, where they confront the main character about the people they've killed, and have a creepy smile. I have played Undertale and Off, and I think they're really great games. The Judge likely wins given his durability, speed, and wide range of abilities. I think sprites specifically would be the right call given the art style of these games, otherwise this fight would be pretty cool. Episode 11, I have Funny Valentine from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure versus Senator Armstrong from Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance, a matchup everyone seems to really like, and I can see this tying into the release of Steel Ball Run. The connections are American politicians have a great charisma but darker intentions. While I haven't gotten to Steel Ball Run as I'm waiting for the anime to release, I have played Revengeance and I really enjoyed it. From what I hear, it's pretty close as Armstrong has way greater stats, while Valentine's stance could give him the edge anyways. This would likely be in 3D given they have access to Revengeance and JoJo models. And finally, for the finale, I have Dr. Seuss's The Grinch versus Jack Skellington from Nightmare Before Christmas. A very different finale given that we never had a Christmas-themed episode before. The connections are sinister-looking characters who decide to impersonate Santa. I have grown up with both, and I can definitely see this as a fun Christmas episode. I believe this matchup is also close to Jack's immortality and the Grinch's weapons. Also, with the animation, you could do it in two ways. A standard 2D episode, or make this the first fully stop-motion episode. The team has already proven they could do stop-motion before with the Kool-Aid Man vs. Macho Man, and Bill Cipher vs. Discord. So if the team dedicates their time to a full stop-motion episode, it would be really cool. So, those are my predictions for Death Battle 2026. And remember, these are what I think are most likely to happen for the season based on a variety of factors. Nothing is completely guaranteed based on those alone. But what do you guys think? What matchups do you think will happen in Death Battle 2026? Please comment down below, leave a like, subscribe, and be sure to check out my Patreon to help support me making videos. And thanks for watching.